Yo, cool cheap brother, I don't drink fella, but keep a bag of cheaper inside my leg. I go to school every day, on the side make me pay, cause I'm rocking on the mic until the break of day. And now the things I do make me a star, and you can be too if you know who you are. Just put your mind to it, you go real far, and the next thing you know, you have a big star. Listen to the beat, what I say, because it's not routine, it's the way I play. Just come out my mouth all time of the day, and then most of the time you're Master J. Hey, they used to call me Easy D, because I rapped on the mic so easily. But now they call me DMC, he's the MC of the party. The D's for doing it all of the time. M is for the rhymes that are on mine. C's for cool as can be. And why you wear those glasses? So I can see it. So dead rhymes galore. Rhymes that you never even heard before. Now if you say you heard my rhyme,
right.
you're gonna have to fight, cause I just made the mother up.
All right. Now, hold on, Run. This is 2020, not 1983. We don't have rap music with lyrics like that.
Hold on.
What's up, Royster?
What's going on? How you doing, Doc?
I'm all right. Just trying to get this shared out here on Facebook Live. Boom, it's done. Good morning, folks. Good morning. It is the Power Hour. Welcome back. Hope that you had a great weekend, and really hope that you did not have outdoor plans today in the Philadelphia area or pretty much anywhere in the path of the rain from Hurricane Delta. And while we make light of the rain here, our thoughts and prayers, and we should send resources too, to the people in Louisiana who have been hit multiple times by hurricanes this season. Probably a good time for Word today to spend the day talking about climate justice. Absolutely. Because I got to imagine, as they're talking about it later today with all the programming, that when you look at the people who've been impacted by these hurricanes, a lot of them are black and brown people in the path of these devastating hurricanes in places like Louisiana, Mississippi, and other places. Anyway, this is the Power Hour. Sitting across from me this morning is Bishop Dwayne David Royster, but if he were in Boston today, they would just say, Royster.
And sitting across from me, it's the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler. It is good to be in the house with you again, my brother. And yeah, I mean, I'm appreciating what you're lifting up about the storm Delta. You know, I'm appreciating Word and having Eco Word Day today and doing the programming that they're going to do, because I think we don't talk about environmental and climate justice issues enough in black spaces, especially when it is us that are often the most impacted, whether we realize it or not. So kudos to our president, Sarah Lomax Reese, and all of the WURD team for really jumping out and getting out there in front of this and having deep conversations about the transformation and change that needs to occur in both climate and environment to make our world safer.
Yeah, you know, when I grew up in Oakland, actually where I was born on like 96th and B Street, that's down like in the flatlands, before we moved to the top of the flatlands. Never quite made it up the hill, but you know, there was always this smell going down there. My grandmother lived in that area, and it was the refineries, right? So from cookie making, the railroad tracks were there. All of the industry was there on San Leandro Boulevard, and that's where most of the black people in Oakland lived. Today, it's still mostly black and brown, and so it's kind of where like all of the poverty is concentrated right there in that corridor. I may have mentioned on a previous program, one of my cousins during the fires a couple of years ago, younger cousin, grew up together, first cousin, Kareem, passed away from an asthma attack. And suddenly, you know, Kareem was really doing well. But the asthma, we believe, was certainly brought on by the fires. But, you know, where did he get the asthma? I mean, he grew up like 2 houses away from the railroad track and in that heavily industrial area. So I'm thinking about him on days like this and saying to folks that this is not, when you talk about eco-justice, climate justice, you tend to think of, you know, we call them like white tree huggers, you know.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, but this is something that black folk have got to get a handle on, and we should be front and center in this fight.
That's right. That's right. And as one who suffers with asthma, and, you know, learned that like 30% of the kids in Philadelphia suffer with asthma, you know, recognize that, yeah, this is something that we really need to get in front of. It is just as dangerous for us as are many other issues that are happening in the city of Philadelphia, and we better get a hold of it before it does too much more damage to us.
Yeah. Well, listen, a lot to cover today. Glad that folk are joining in on Facebook Live. We're going to hope that there are no interruptions today. And so if you are there, be kind enough. Let's double the audience, and then we're going to hit you again. Let's double it again. Hit the share button. Send it out to your friends and family. Glad to see Miss Roberta in. Raphael, he's ready. You know, he's ready at the keyboard. Kim and Joe Simmons. What's up, Joe? Rubbing it in on us, talking about from sunny Florida. We didn't need to hear that. We ain't need to hear that, bruh. Keep that to yourself, okay? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to send Trump to you. COVID-14, COVID-45 is on his way just because you rubbed it in on us. So be careful, Joe. He says he's not contagious because he's now immune. And in his words, he has a protective glow around him. He said that's the definition of immunity. Man, this guy, glad to see Shirley as well and all the others who are getting in on Facebook Live. Jordan is holding us down today. And great, he's working on a clip that I want to play because today, as we celebrate Columbus Day, celebrate, as we remember this day, I want to talk about the real victims. Can we talk about the real victims
of Columbus Day?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, besides the indigenous folk that
Nah, man, no, we try to talk about the real victims, bruh.
The real victims of Columbus Day.
I'm not even gonna. That's just the tease. I wait when Jordan is ready. Jordan's holding the board down this morning for Clarissa. Jordan, when you get ready, you just text me and tell me you're ready so that we can hear from the real victims on Columbus Day. Because it's not who you think. It's not. That's not the indigenous people. It's not the Pontiac. It's not the Choctaw. No, not the Cherokee, Iroquois. No. It's not even the black folk dragged over here on slave ships. I got the real victims for you, and she's ready to go on this clip once Jordan is ready. Why are you looking like that, man?
I'm just amazed. I'm really curious about who and what this is.
Oh, I got you intrigued, huh? All right.
Got me definitely intrigued early in the morning, and
Well,
I want to figure out what this is and who this is. I can imagine a whole bunch of things. Let's not forget the Lenni Lenape that were in the Philadelphia region as well.
Yes.
That are in the indigenous tribes in our community that we pay homage to on this day.
Yeah, no, on this day we want to remember the real victims. And so once Jordan is ready, we're having a little technical issues back there, but it's all right. It's all good. At least we're up online. Hey, real quick, before we get into all the political trappings of today, I guess we do need to acknowledge that the Lakers have done the improbable. They've actually caught up to the Boston Celtics with 17 championship rings. But I must ask the question, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound?
Oh, Lord. Why? Because nobody was in the stands to witness what happened? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm like, well, you won a championship in the middle of the NFL season. Like, who cares? I didn't even know that Game 6 was yesterday. I just assumed it was going to be like Tuesday when they could actually get some people to watch it. Yesterday's everybody's tuned into the NFL Red Zone. And, I mean, it's October. Who really cares about the NBA at this point? They won in a bubble. Shout out to Nate Silverman, by the way, or the commissioner, Adam Silverman, or Adam Silver. I get him mixed up with the guy from does the polling for 538. But the NBA commissioner, shout out to him for constructing the bubble because they have not had the issues that, I mean, look, the Patriots keep getting COVID. The Tennessee Titans keep getting COVID. Players out able to do what they want. That Major League Baseball had the problem. But you have heard none of this in the NBA. I think one guy got it who went out of the bubble. They were like, you can't get back in.
Yeah, no, I remember they shut him down for sure. Because
Right.
he went out, I think went to a strip club. Wasn't it? He went to a strip club and they came back and they were like, no. No, isolated his behind and told him he could not play.
So shout out to them. So I guess this brings out the never-ending question. May as well get this started this morning. Is LeBron the GOAT?
Okay, so you know how I am about sports.
I know, but everybody got an opinion about this. Is LeBron the GOAT or is Jordan the GOAT?
I think Jordan did a bunch of things that were powerful in his day, right? Playing in the game and the whole 9 yards. What I appreciate about LeBron is that I think LeBron is a overall better representation of both a basketball player, activist, deeply civically minded. And really, he pours millions of dollars every year back into communities, into his school, into a variety of programming that he does, and foundation work as well. And I'm sorry, I ain't see Michael doing all that stuff, man.
That ain't the question, Royster.
It is
Is
the
he the
question. It's the
GOAT
question for
on
me.
the
It's the
court?
question for me. It's the
Oh,
question
no,
for
no,
me.
no. All right. I would not
Dude,
debate you on.
dude.
Michael Jordan is a horrible individual. He's an awful person. So I think we can all agree on that. And his documentary this year did not help clean his image up. It just made people hate him more. I mean, Michael Jordan is like probably one of the meanest people you could ever meet next to Trump. So I agree with you. Bron is the guy. Nobody's used his platform, but I mean, basketball on the court, what you have done with your teams, the whole nine. Is LeBron truly the GOAT?
I can't say because I don't really watch basketball. So
All right. All right.
I can't say. You could speak to that far better than I could.
Well, Raphael says no, LeBron is not the GOAT because he's been on 3 different teams. And see, this is so Raphael is on my point. I'll just say this and move on. So the issue for me is I think it also speaks to a generational divide, right? Michael Jordan took a team that was nothing, built it into something, ripped off 3 titles in a row, almost unheard of since the Celtics back in the day, left to go play baseball, came back to the same team, which had become crap without him, rebuilt it again, and ripped off another 3 titles, and then retired a second time. To me,
and then came back and played for Carolina though, and then
we don't talk about that.
I mean, but that's part of the story though, right?
Right, it is.
I mean,
but I'm just
that's like thinking too highly of yourself, and then you go back, you can't do nothing.
Well, that had a lot to do with the management too, and the ownership, and the way in which they treated the way they blew the team up. They intentionally blew the team up, and the documentary does cover that well. But here's the issue. So LeBron to me speaks to this generation's inability to stay in a place and fight through, the good and the bad, right? So in Cleveland, he builds a competitive team as a rookie, gets to the finals, they don't win, gets to the top again, they don't win. He leaves and goes to Miami. They win championships, but then the year they don't win again, he quits and goes back to Cleveland. Builds a team, they finally win, goes back again to the championship, loses, and then he leaves again. I mean, look, anybody can get 4 championships if every time you look around you're playing with Anthony Davis, or you're playing with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, or you're playing with Kyrie Irving. The question is, can you stay and actually build a winner? And I just think that there's something about his approach. And again, I'm not knocking him. Look, LeBron is truly, if you're talking about the top 3, he's always going to be in that conversation at this point, always. But it just seems like that just kind of speaks to what we're experiencing in the era that we live in right now. And I'm not just saying that an age thing, but it's just a thing.
Okay, well, let me just push you on this, right? Because I do think the things outside of the court are just as important as what goes on the court. And in that regard, when you think about players and those that are really substantive, I mean, great, Michael Jordan could, sink a basketball, and so what? The bottom line is, how did he use his platform, his power, his resources to make big impact in the world around him? He didn't do it. LeBron James is all over the place. LeBron James is active. LeBron James takes his resources, he uses his platform, he uses his power in that platform to be able to make statements that nobody else can. And I'm sorry, I think for me that makes him a far better player than Michael Jordan will ever be. Because it's not just about your skill on the basketball court, it's about who are you as a human being. And I think that is what makes a big difference. Now, again, that could possibly be because I don't really care about sports. I tell people all the time, politics is my sport. That's what I care about. And, you and I both know that there are some really, really great preachers out there that are absolutely terrible individuals. And, it just tears away from the message that they're trying to share. It's the same thing with basketball. Just because you can shoot a basketball, so what? And you don't do anything else for anybody else. You don't care about your community. You don't care about the kids that idolize you. You're not doing what you need to do to be able to help spark interest in business in the communities to which these folk come from. No, I'm going to stand my ground on this one, my brother. I love you, but I'm going to stand with LeBron James because he's just an all-around, well-rounded player. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
That don't make him the GOAT. First of all, he only got 4 rings, and he's had like multiple.
But he's still playing though.
Bruh, Jordan is 6-0. He went to the finals 6 times and won 6 championships. He never lost in the finals. I mean, that pretty much. I don't know how you could. If we're going to play basketball. I mean, look, you're right. Jordan is a horrible person. I mean, it took George Floyd to get murdered in public view 8 minutes and 46 seconds with the cop on his neck, and pretty much everybody, including conservative GOP people, to condemn it. For us to finally hear Jordan make a statement about something social justice related. So, I mean, look, man.
Decades after he left the game. Decades
exactly. After catching all kind of hell and heat like Mike. It's okay now. Look, dude, even Mitch McConnell pretty much thinks that was wrong. Really? Okay. Is it going to impact my shoe sales? No? Okay. It was wrong. They shouldn't have killed him. I mean, that's kind of MJ. He's always thinking about his own bottom line. Also, that's what makes him the GOAT, because he was so mean and he always wanted to win so much that he didn't care about the feelings of folk around him, you know. So, Sheila, don't worry. We have, on the other side of the break, the true victims of Columbus Day queued up and ready to go. And we're going to tell you exactly who the real victims of Columbus Day are, who they are, in just a few moments. And we have to talk about COVID-45, as Karen likes to call him. And he's been cured, air quotes there, and he has immunity, air quotes there. I'll just simply say, if you're at a MAGA rally and he's tossing hats your direction, you know,
Ron.
Yeah, be like all the guys at a wedding when the bride throws that little thing in the direction and people run like it's a hand grenade. Run. Because trust me, you don't want to touch anything that guy has touched. It's the Power Hour, and we'll be right back on the other side of this break with Bishop Dwayne Rice and Mark Kelly Tyler. We'll be right back.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
But they've got the experience.
I'm still in shock 3 or 4 years later that we're in this position now. Our democracy is at a pivotal point.
From the top, we don't trust our government. We see the trouble we're in economically. We've got 170,000 Americans dead, and yet this president will do anything he can to make it seem like things are better than they are.
I did more for the black community than anybody with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln.
It's our responsibility. If we don't lead that effort to make things better, we can't ask other people to do it. There is no good reason not to vote.
Right, we need to have individuals that are in office like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
They are our best shot to take us forward.
And that's what makes me incredibly hopeful, but we really do have to work for this thing.
To the thousands who did not vote, we need you to show up for our future and for our country.
You cannot sit on the sidelines. You got to get in the game.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Reverend Tyler, with November 3rd around the corner, do you know how you'll be voting this year?
Dr. Callahan, I requested my mail-in ballot, and I'm returning it the day it comes in the mail.
That's perfect, because we can't leave anything to chance this year.
Already received your mail-in ballot? You're just a few simple steps away from turning your mailbox into a ballot box. Here's how. After selecting your candidates, place your marked ballot into the small secrecy envelope and seal it. It's a 2-envelope process, so then you'll place the small secrecy envelope into the larger one. Make sure to seal that one too. Sign and date it, and then it's as simple as dropping it in your mailbox, no postage necessary, or returning it to your county election office. And if you still want to sign up to vote by mail or find out where to drop off your mail-in ballot, visit votespa.com.
I'm not waiting until November 3rd. I'm returning my mail-in ballot the day it comes in the mail.
Or you can return your ballot to your county election office.
I've got my plan. Make your plan to vote today.
Paid for by Power Interfaith.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour with Mark Kelly Tyler and Dwayne Royster. Hey, join us this Monday, October 12th, for a special day-long EcoWord Environmental Justice Summit. In recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day, we will explore topics at the intersection of Black and Indigenous rights, income, and the environment. This multimedia virtual event will feature Majora Carter, Radmilla Cody, Sherelle Barber, Marie Sampson from the Source Reporting Collaborative, the Oro family, activists, artists, and other thought leaders. Also, don't miss this special opportunity to join or renew your Forward membership today to receive your free copy of this month's #BlackWords Book Club selection. A Terrible Thing to Waste, Environmental Racism and Its Assault on the American Mind by Harriet A. Washington. Join or renew today at wordradio.com/forward. The EcoWord Environmental Justice Summit is produced in collaboration with Bartram's Gardens and from the Source Reporting Collaborative, and is supported by PICO, the Watershed Alliance, Education Alliance, the Lenfest Institute, and William Penn Foundation. Be sure to tune in Monday starting at 10 a.m. To learn more, visit our website at wordradio.com or ecoword.com. So check us out later today. Programming starts at 10 a.m. And be sure to learn some more about the issues that are impacting our community. Now, I know we want to jump over and we're going to put the Lakers and LeBron and Kobe thing. I mean, not Kobe, it's the LeBron and Michael Jordan to rest. I'm getting ready to call him Michael Jackson to rest. I mean, that was the GOAT. But anyway, well, I don't know. Between him and Prince, that's another debate we can actually take up one of these days. Prince actually produced more music and played more instruments and actually did more things. But anyway, that's another story. I'm a Prince fan, as you can tell. So I just want to lift up a couple of things, though, right? So just for folk to know real quick that the U.S. is now averaging 45,000 positive COVID tests per day right now. That's according to Black Information Network. And it's actually 8% higher than it was last week and double what the country experienced in June. We're looking at the possibility of about 233,000 deaths by the end of October. So, folks, please take seriously the fact that COVID-19 is still happening out there right now, and we need to stay on top of that, take care of yourselves, make sure you're using protection, face masks, hand sanitizer, all those things, and practice good social distancing because we are not done with this yet. We're still got a ways to go. So just wanted to lift that up while we were in this space to lift this up, because I know you want to tell us who the real victims of Columbus Day are.
That's a good segue, actually. Play the clip. Play the clip, Jordan. This is a Karen. Forgive me for the commentary on it. I couldn't find the original raw clip. This is a quote-unquote Karen at a public hearing in her town. I think this was in Florida, where they had hearings about people who didn't like wearing face masks because of COVID-19. Go right ahead, Jordan.
So I just wanted to share some of my experience with you, what it's been like being an unmasked individual.
Ladies and gents, another Karen.
I'll boil it down to one point, which is discrimination. It has nothing to do with the virus, and it has everything to do with how we treat one another.
She plays victim.
I am discriminated against every single day in my county now, sometimes multiple times a day. I'm told, stand back. Stand back.
Because she doesn't think coronavirus is real.
Ma'am, excuse me, ma'am. You have to wear a mask. And the best one, leave.
And people want to protect themselves because she goes everywhere without a mask.
We are treated worse than second-class citizens. We're treated like we're not even human, let alone someone's fellow American.
The entitlement of this Karen is truly something to behold.
Yesterday, I went to mail a package at my local FedEx Kinko's, set the package down on the counter politely.
We don't have time for her FedEx experience. I'll tell you what happened. She walked in without a mask, and the guy's like, whoa, whoa, step back, stand on the purple dot. Drop the package, you got it. Here's your receipt. No, I'm not handing it to you. I'm putting it over here. You can go pick it up. You know she wanted to say, we're treated worse than, well, I'll keep that to myself. Let's just say second-class citizens. But you know who I'm talking about. Wink, wink, nod. We're treated worse than them.
Yes.
Dude, I'm telling you, look, I know it's Columbus Day. We're supposed to remember how the Native Americans were treated, the indigenous people of this country. I mean, I get it. But I'm just telling you, we're missing out on who the real victims are today. It's the unmasked. Those who have the courage to walk out and defy this oppressive government and to throw off the shackles of maskdom and go into places and walk up and talk to you in your face. They're bold like that. And I think we should honor them today. We should have a march for her. I'm going to organize it.
You're going to organize it? You're going to have a march for her? You're going to lose every bit of credibility you have organizing a march for her. Okay.
But she's a victim. You heard her in her own, she's discriminated against.
Geez. I'm not even going to comment. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, but, you know, listen, I mean, so the truth of the matter is it's important, right? Because, so right now, as you said just a moment ago, we are averaging, so we're not just in an uptick. The numbers are all going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
And right now, people are clamoring because they want to get into the Eagles game on Sunday. You know, it's like, let us in. Man, this is like the scene in Jaws where, remember the mayor in the town, he just didn't want to lose any of the revenue because it was summertime, and they told him the best thing is to close the beach because we got a killer shark out there. Right. And he's like, look, man, we're losing money. Open the beach. And so you got people who are clamoring to open the beach because you have people out here who are, again, you know, turning this into a political issue when it is a health crisis.
Right.
But the main person who could have tamped this down from the beginning, because look, let's be very clear. This is split along lines of, you know, Democrat, Republican, conservative, and liberal. If you support Trump, if you don't. And he has taken this and used it to his political advantage. And has, I mean, to this point now where you still have COVID-19. And by the way, he pays I won't say he paid Candace Owens. Candace Owens was paid by somebody to organize an event at the White House over the weekend. And what does she do? Candace Owens, she's black on the outside activist. She brings in a bunch of black and brown people, some of whom I understand, according to reporting, have been paid to be there. And they herd them in together for a photo op. So they put a barrier around them on the south lawn of the White House when there was a ton of space for them to socially distance. So they're not socially distanced, most of whom thankfully were wearing masks because what? They're black and brown, and they know that they're more prone to die from this. But this guy is on a balcony still with COVID-19. His doctors have still not said he has had a negative test, and he is convincing people, even now that you contracted it, your wife has contracted it, 30 of your closest associates or more have contracted it, and yet you cannot still just simply say, I was wrong, wear a mask, let's walk this all back, and people are dying and being, quote unquote, discriminated against.
Yeah, Candace Owens, piece of work. This is a terrible time in our country, a terrible time that Donald Trump has yet to learn what leadership really means. Mm-hmm. A terrible time that there are some black and brown folk that just don't know how not to get paid and have enough sense to say, I'm not going. Face mask and all, this guy, out there on a balcony, so he's above everybody else. He's talking, no face mask on, I know it's outside and everything. They herd them in there because they're trying to make it look like it's crowded and packed, so that they can tell the story about how there are black folk out there that love Donald Trump. It was just sort of like, I don't know if you know the story or not, but in the 2008 election, in the primary season, so there's always this issue about street money out there from the campaigns to help, get folk out to, get out the vote, to, knock doors, to pass out flyers, the whole 9 yards. So Hillary Clinton put a lot of money in Philadelphia to do that. Barack Obama put no money. His campaign put no money in Philadelphia for it, right? So you had a bunch of folk out there that were passing out Hillary Clinton information. But if you actually asked them who they were voting for, they're like, I'm voting for Obama. So,
right.
Folk gonna take the money, but they had absolutely. And Obama was a landslide in Philadelphia. As a matter of fact, it was embarrassing for Mayor Nutter because he was out there, a huge Hillary Clinton fan, surrogate for Hillary Clinton, really out there telling everybody about Hillary Clinton. Obama wiped up Philadelphia. So, but I mean, sometimes y'all just have a little integrity. Be like, nah, I'm not gonna get paid on this one today. I'm not gonna do that thing. So,
Well,
anyway.
I mean, the funny thing is that, you're in Washington, D.C., Chocolate City, even with gentrification, it's still Chocolate City.
Absolutely.
And you can't even find enough black folk to, fill that little area right there that you actually have to pay black people to come to a Trump event. And yet, as you see us laughing all the time, we hear that commercial played on air where he touts himself as having done more for black people. He begrudgingly says, maybe Abraham Lincoln did more than me. Yeah, you know, he only kind of quote unquote freed the slaves. And so he at least has enough sense to know not to make that claim. And yet you can't in Washington, D.C. get, you know, more than a handful of black folk to come willingly. They've got to be paid and enticed to be there, to stand there in front of you, to let coronavirus projectiles fall down and rain on them from the balcony of the White House. I mean, come on, man. I mean, this is why, listen, folks, if you have not yet made a voting plan, this is our morning daily announcement about make your plan. Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey, our listening area, and everywhere else around the country, folk who are tuning in on this morning, make your voting plan. And if you can vote early, do so. If you can bypass the post office, even better. Walk it into your county. If you're in Texas, unfortunately, because their governor, I don't know why he's trying to make it so much harder to actually get out the vote, is only allowed for one satellite drop site per county. So if you're in places like Houston or Dallas, that's going to be a long ride. But make your voting plan and go and vote soon, because I mean, man, I don't know how much more of this we can actually take. I mean, seriously, this guy is he took Dr. Fauci and twisted his words. I mean, Fauci to the point where Dr. Fauci, who never says anything, has come out publicly and said, "Hey, stop misrepresenting me. I didn't say that. You are twisting my words and putting it in an ad to make it seem like I support you, and I absolutely do not in that way."
Right. Fauci claimed and it said he has never publicly supported or endorsed any political candidate, and he would not do so at this time, and is really upset about that. Now, the thing about it is, the question is, will the Trump administration has doubled down. As a matter of fact, the campaign manager went back and said, these are Dr. Fauci's words. And actually, there was a clip, I wish we had the clip right now, of what Dr. Fauci said, the unedited clip about what Dr. Fauci said. And he was talking about the folk at the CDC and, the healthcare workers that were out there. He was not talking about Donald Trump. He was talking about his team at the National Institute of Allergies and Infectious Diseases. There was nothing to do with Donald Trump. It had to do with those folk who are the same folk that are there regardless of what political candidate it is. So Fauci was, they're there year after year. I mean, their jobs don't change because of who's in the White House.
Well, so, the fact that he had to edit Fauci on his commercial is so bad. And look, I do documentary work, so I know how it is to have to kind of edit quotes to fit a piece. But when you do the editing, you have to be truthful to the spirit in which they were saying, and if the context fits, you have permission and license to do that. They did not, obviously, as Fauci has come out and said, but it's so bad that Fauci only speaks for maybe 6 seconds and is spliced 3 times. Wow. It was wonderful, and we're doing all we can do. It's so bad.
I actually am deeply concerned, right, because a lot of those roles that those folk are in are politically appointed roles, and generally because they're nonpartisan, non-political roles, people don't really bother them too much, right? But I'm deeply concerned about folk that, like Dr. Fauci and others who are in these appointee roles, whose jobs could very much be at risk if Trump loses the election and he decides he just wants to get revenge and start firing folk. I think that this could be very problematic for us down the road here in terms of being able to get good information for the next couple of months post finding out what the results are of the election.
Well, what difference does it make? I mean, right now he's tamping down on good information anyway. I mean, even with them there, Fauci is sidelined, right? So the person that we should be hearing from on a daily briefing to explain to us, hey, like we said back in the spring, nobody should be surprised. We said in the fall, this is coming back because it's going to start getting colder. People are being driven inside, and without a cure, without a vaccine, guess what? We're going to see the same kind of thing. And plus, by now, people have the misconception that they are somehow immune because they haven't gotten it yet. And yet, somehow, 45,000 people a day are getting this disease. Man, this is crazy. Look, we got a break coming in 2 minutes. But Tim, South Philly, come on in, bro. You got about a half a minute or so.
Okay, I'm going to say this, Reverend and Bishop, that I'm looking at black people in history, and we have to learn to sometimes alienate people and let people know there's going to be consequences when it comes to our people. Are you familiar with this thing that Trump put together called Blaxit? In other words, he was looking for the African-American or the person of color who wanted to leave the Democratic Party and come to the Republican Party. Whether they were paid or whether they came with their own conscious mind to leave the Democratic Party to be a part of the Republican Party. You know, you have people in history who later on apologize for what they did. You have to have a consequence when it comes to our people, a movement maybe, that you have to be more loyal to black people because of the problems that we have. We don't need traitors. I want to know your opinions about that, brothers. I really do. That's serious. That's the reason why we're here now, because of traitors. Or why we're here now and we're not successful because of traitors.
Right. So listen, to your point, it's called Blaxit. So Candace Owen, actually, I think she didn't coin it. She's pushing it big, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's the idea that black folks should leave the quote unquote Democratic plantation. And I mean, look, Candace Owens, you know, she takes a premise that has an element of truth in it, but she then goes too far, right? I mean, I've seen people. I have a couple of friends who are voting for Trump. I won't call the names out. Some of you know them. They've been on this station before, but the fact is, you can't just say, well, it's like saying Joe Biden voted for the crime bill, so you should definitely vote for Trump. And don't tell me anything about Trump, right? So don't tell me that at the same time Trump was calling for death for the Central Park 5. And that since that time in the 90s, Joe Biden has come full circle, admitted that that was wrong, along with a whole lot of other politicians who were part of that movement in the 90s, and a lot of us who also were supportive of it because it was our communities that were being ravaged. But you talk about Trump right now, in 30 years from calling for death for the Central Park 5, has he learned anything? Absolutely not. Even though they've been exonerated.
Yep.
The real rapist has come forward. I mean, this is factual, and he still cannot say, I am sorry. So it is not simply to say that the Democratic Party has flaws, therefore go to the Republican Party. That party does not care for us. Now, I think what we have to do is have much more nuance, and we have to do a much better job at getting more for our support, demanding more for our support, and not just simply letting our support be taken for granted, which we have done for a full generation. So I think that becomes the issue. But blacks exiting to a party that tells us back the blue and shut up and just be supportive of law enforcement, whether they choke you out or not, that is not an option for us, not right now. So I don't know. I mean, I know we could talk more about that, but we're up on the break. This is the Power Hour with Bishop Dwayne Royster and Mark Kelly Tyler. Happy to take your phone calls on the other side of this as well. We'll be right back.
Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
Good morning. Pretty quiet start here in Philadelphia. A little bit of rain falling, so you do want to watch your speeds out there. But other than that, not bad yet. Southbound 95, you're going to find some light slowing from Common down through Bridge through that work zone. Again, Allegheny through Girard. Northbound looks good. Vine Expressway, no problems through Center City. Schuylkill Expressway, westbound University through 30th. Some slowing there through construction. Eastbound side looks good. The Boulevard Route 1 southbound, no major problems. PA Turnpike, Blue Route 476, major roads in New Jersey, 4255, 295 in fine shape there as well. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
The pandemic is not only putting everyone's health at risk, it's also impacted our jobs and retirement security. And it's disproportionately affecting African Americans, especially those 50 plus. That's why AARP Pennsylvania is fighting for your voice to be heard. If you haven't voted yet, now is the time to learn about your voting options and cast your ballot. We're working to make sure you can vote safely, whether you choose to vote from home or in person. And if you choose to vote by mail, make sure you return your ballot using both envelopes. Your ballot goes in the smaller envelope for secrecy, and that goes into the larger envelope for mailing. Also, don't forget to sign the voter declaration on the back. Your voice matters. Make sure it's heard. Go to aarp.org/PA votes to learn about your voting options and how to vote safely this election. Visit aarp.org/PA votes today. Paid for by AARP.
COVID-19 impacted a lot of things this year, including regular vaccination appointments. Vaccines help protect you and everyone around you, especially during flu season. Schedule an appointment with your healthcare provider today to make sure you and your children are vaccinated. Vaccines keep us safe, and they work. Skip the flu this year. Get your vaccination today. Let's stay protected together. For more information, visit health.pa.gov. Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Need a new mattress? Stop by to see Julian, the mattress man, located at 7421 Stenton Avenue. You deal directly with the owner, Julian, to ensure the best prices on name brand mattresses like Sealy, Posturepedic. Call 215-424-5550. That's 215-424-5550.
Everyone has a different journey to their vote, but we all take the same steps. If you want to vote, register by October 19th. If you want to vote by mail, apply now and mail your ballot back as early as possible, before November 3rd. Or bring it to a satellite election office. If you want to vote in person, go to your polling location on November 3rd. However you want to vote, we'll help you find the way. Visit PhiladelphiaVotes.com.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour with Mark Kelly Tyler and Dwayne David Royster. Hey, join us Tuesday, October 13th, as WURD welcomes back beloved host Nick Talafero for the new drive time show, Evening Words with Nick Talafero. Tune in every Monday through Thursday from 4 to 7 p.m. for the best in conversation and contemplation. The show will feature Nick's unique brand of wit, wisdom, and humor as he talks with authors, experts, newsmakers, and you. Check out Evening Words with Nick Talafero starting this Tuesday, October 13th. And keep your dial locked so you don't miss out Sincerely Sarita at her new time, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 p.m. Sarita's new show, Safe Space with Sincerely Sarita, will feature insightful, in-depth interviews with the most interesting voices in Philly and beyond. She will bring a spirit of clarity and openness to Safe Space for intergenerational dialogue and healing. Spend your evenings with Nick and Sarita beginning October 13th, exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM on WURD. Streaming live at WURDradio.com or on the WURD Radio app, or watch live on WURD TV via Facebook.
Nick is back?
Nick is back. He comes back tomorrow. He'll be back in his old time slot tomorrow. So it'll be good to have our brother back in the mix with us.
Nick is my radio mentor.
Yes.
He gave me one piece of advice. He was worse than my uncle who bought me my first motorcycle. That uncle bought it, dropped it off at my house, and was like, "Here you go." Jumped on his Harley and took off. I said, "Whoa, where you going? You're not going to this is the bigger bike I ever had." He said, "Yo, Negro, I bought it for you. You teach your damn self how to ride." That was Uncle Bubba. That was the motorcycle lesson. Of course, I dropped it like 30 minutes later, right?
Oh,
but
wow.
I taught myself he was right. But Nick is slightly better than him. Nick's advice to me in radio was, whatever you do, don't ever say, "Hello, Radio Land." That was it.
That was it. That was his advice for you?
That's it.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. All right. Well, check it out, folks. If you want to call in, 215-634-8065. Again, 215-634-8065. Or 866-361-0900. Again, 866-361-0900. Hey, I did want to bring this piece up. So many folk are still asking about what's happening with the Breonna Taylor case in Louisville, Kentucky. And on Friday, there were hearings around the grand juror who wants to come forward and to talk about, what happened on the grand jury, because they think it's not fair that a Kentucky Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, made public comments regarding the grand jury and then sits back and says, "I'm sorry, you don't get to do this because it has to be secret." This grand person for the grand jury wants to be able to come forward and be able to speak their truth. First, he said he would release the transcripts, then he fought against the transcripts, and now the member of the grand jury is coming forth saying that they want to be able to speak for themselves. So I think that this is an important piece about, the transparency or lack of transparency of the criminal justice system, and especially for granted, in some circumstances, the grand jury members need to be able to be secret, but if somebody wants to out themselves and come speak their truth, I don't understand why this should be a problem, only that it will probably turn around and embarrass the Attorney General of the state of Kentucky.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, right now we are in an era of where we should be moving toward more transparency, less transparency. You know, and it's really frightening, right? And so it kind of ties in back to that argument about this Blaxit, right? So should black folk, you know what I mean, like, be running for the Democratic Party? And so, no, I mean, listen, here you have a person who is actually black, the state attorney general of Kentucky. And yet it's kind of like Tim's comment, the caller just, you know, in the last segment, right? I mean that, you know, you got a lot of folk who is, as the expression is, everybody who's my skin folk ain't my kinfolk. That seems to be operating in a way that is anti-black. I'm trying to be nice here. I'm sure callers and posters on social media will say it in a more extreme way, but, you know, whose behavior has not necessarily supported, you know, black causes. He has had protesters who showed up on his lawn because, you know, I mean, every blade of grass, you know, blades of grass, lives matter, hit with serious felony charges where people are facing 6 years in prison, not your standard. In Philly, when you protest, you get a little citation. It's like a ticket, and you just pay it, and it's it. You know, I mean, it's just, you know, you're exercising your First Amendment, and you just move on and keep it moving. But, yeah, I mean, everything about this story is just wrong, right? And we're not getting closer to the truth. It seems like we're getting further from the truth. And again, like I said in the last segment, that for those who are saying, well, we need to leave this party for that party, I would just simply say that this is what that party looks like in action. In fact, you know, I got sent a story this morning. Leslie sent it to me about a real Blaxit. But it's not from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party. It's black folk who have tried to be in multiracial and white churches who are leaving en masse because their clergy and officers will not acknowledge what COVID-19 is doing to black people in particular, and will not speak up on issues like Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Jonathan Price, and all the things that have happened this summer alone. And people are leaving, trying to find a spiritual space that will not only feed their souls, but also deal with the issue of being black in America, because you can't leave that at the door. Are you witnessing any of that? Because you're in the UCC, so obviously your denomination is a little bit more multicultural than the AME.
Yeah, our denomination is multicultural, and we are also deeply social justice minded. So we have not witnessed that per se in many of our congregations that I'm aware of at this point. And again, because a lot of our work and our ministry and our theology really revolves around social justice, it seems, I mean, we have a lot of our white churches that have Black Lives Matter signs up.
Sure.
They've been addressing issues around immigration reform. They've been addressing issues around, you know, being allies of the LGBTQIA community. So, you know, and I mean, the United Church of Christ was pumping loads of money into the civil rights movement in the 60s and the 50s, long before other folk were doing that. So I don't know that it's necessarily the same way. That doesn't mean that, I mean, there's still a lot of white churches. And the one thing about the United Church of Christ, unlike a lot of other denominations, is that it's got a congregational governance, right, which also leads to sometimes congregational theology. So each local congregation can actually think independently and have their own theology. So we actually have a bunch of conservative United Church of Christ congregations across the U.S. That some are black, some are white, some are Latinx, but they're conservative, and the Asian Pacific Islander as well, and indigenous. They have they're more conservative than others, but you know, I tend to be in the more left of center churches and travel in those circles. So
yeah, well, absolutely, and I would expect nothing less. I was just thinking, like, again, you know, because of that proximity, sometimes you all are in conversation with, like, maybe some folk who are not as, you know, congregations that are not so more to the left. But yeah, but I can certainly imagine that right now, right? To know, to think about what it is to be in a black congregation, showing up on a Sunday morning where all you've seen over the weekend have been stories of, you know, protests and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor in the news constantly, and to never ever hear it acknowledged. And if you do hear it acknowledged in church, it is from the "we need to restore law and order" framework. It is not it's not we understand what it is to be in this place, right? So I don't, I've always kind of had questions about how Black folk exist in those spaces to begin with, because I think that if you're going to preach, you have to preach to the entire person. But, apparently it's starting to have, the stress is starting to take its toll.
Well, here's the challenge with this, right? A lot of these congregations that people are exiting are evangelical congregations. And I think this moment has really forced people. And let me just say this, I'm a recovering evangelical, right? So a lot of people don't know, my undergraduate degree is from a very conservative evangelical school. I have a degree in urban ministry management. My earliest days, even at seminary education, was at a very evangelical seminary. Shaped in that, I was a member of the National Black Evangelical Association for a lot of years. So I come at this from the knowledge of being on the side of being an evangelical. And then I got saved. And so, there's a big difference. And part of the challenge for evangelicals is that they can't accept the fact that their theology as it stands is steeped in white supremacy. And I don't care if you're black or you're white or whatever, the theology in and of itself is about supporting a system that really has nothing to do with God, has everything to do with maintaining power. And until folk are really prepared to come to that understanding and to then begin to challenge it, you do have a lot of post-evangelicals that we're referring to now that are kind of coming out and saying, wait a minute, we want to really get back to the faith, but we want to separate away from all this white supremacy stuff. So it's a whole journey going on with that right now.
Well, look, I know we're out of time, but it just seems as though for a lot of them, it is abortion or nothing else. So abortion at any cost, right? So my support for ending abortion politically, theologically, then that leads to my political decision, means that I'm prepared to ignore everything else, including what, people do in the government in my name to black and brown people at any cost. And that is, at a certain point, there's going to be a reckoning with that. Hey, listen, I know that we talked about this a little bit at one point, but Cassandra Franklin, the young lady, since we're talking about Breonna Taylor, and abuses of power by authorities, Cassandra Franklin, this road rage incident where Anthony Voci, who's over the homicide unit with the DA's office, so she's willing to come on, I understand, to talk with her attorney, who is the chief public defender, Kiera Bradford Gray. So we got to lock that interview down because it's a fascinating story. Hopefully, Voci will come on and talk about it as well. But the case is now in the hands of Josh Shapiro, the state AG. Krasner has recused himself. But this is a very important story. It does not end, thank God, with any violence to anybody. But she's gone through way too much trauma for something that was minor. And again, I think it illustrates what this system does, the abuses of power, in particular on black women.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I can't wait to hear that interview and be a part of that conversation. I think that's going to be a powerful conversation. And it's really going to expose some stuff about Philadelphia, right? Continue to expose stuff about Philadelphia, not stuff we didn't know already anyway. So anyway, well, look, folks, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for everybody that checked in via Facebook, for those that are listening by multiple means of checking us out. We appreciate that. Thank you, Dr. Tyler, for everything you do. Thank you, Jordan, for holding it down in the booth, even though Jordan's last name is Booth, for holding it down in the booth. But we appreciate you. We'll be back here tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Stay tuned for Solomon Jones. Wake up with Word. Go out, change the damn world, because if you don't, nobody will. Peace.
You know I got